right, Valhalla Sports Talk is live again, presenting the voice of fantasy football. Tonight, kind of a weird, unique little stream here. Tonight, we're dealing with the Southern Arizona Fantasy Football League, a league that I'm a participant in. One of the two leagues that I participate in. I got some feedback here. Oh, I know where that's coming from. Let me clear that. Shut that up. We'll shut that up. Anyway, we're dealing with the Southern Arizona Fantasy Football League, ladies and gentlemen. A league that I commish, I run it, and we've got 10 teams in the league. The league, I believe, is going into its 15th year, 15th, 16th year, so it's been around forever. We've got a rather large roster in this league, 38 players rostered during the season. We cut 15 going into the draft. The draft for the SADFFL is next Friday. It's a slow draft, starts at 6 p.m., and teams have time to make their picks over the next few days after that. But cuts are due now. They're supposed to be in here in the next couple days. So tonight I'm just going to kind of peek at the roster, go through it, and debate who I should keep and who I should get rid of. I've already got YouTube Core, I think maybe, or he's checked in, and Dreamy says something about Toronto. Um, so that's what we got going on. So on the Voice of Fantasy Football here on Valhalla Sports Talk, like I said, we'll be covering both the SADFFL that I'm in, and also there's another league that I'm in that's pretty unique as well. Um, we won't talk about that tonight, but that league we've already had our draft, um, and we have rather large rosters. But both of them have individual defensive players, so we'll talk about that as well. Anyone that finds themselves in the chat, we'll also take any fantasy football questions that you have and kind of work it out together and see what we can find. But mostly, I just wanted to do something different and kind of fun here and see if we get any participation up in the chat to make it go. Um, so should be fun. Here we go. So I'm going to take Butcher Block. Bobby checks in, says double fingers to Toronto, to the Toronto team. Apparently they made Bobby mad in his stream today, and he ranted a little bit. So we'll go from there. Let's take down this Mad Viking logo, and I'll give you guys a real quick peek at the Horny Beaver roster. Um, People ask, where the name came from my team, the Horny Beavers. Well, I'm a Viking fan. They have horns on their helmets, and it was kind of a funny deal. Anyway, the team, like I said, has been around almost 15 years. In this league, it's kind of unique. Like I said, we only have 10 teams, um, but it's probably the most homer league that I've ever been in as far as people keeping players from their favorite team. so, so it's kind of that line we all walk in fantasy football. How many is too many of your own team? And so people have to try to figure that out. But anyway, let's take this out and take a look at the Horny Beaver roster pre-draft before the draft gets started. And here we go. Little picture of me on the website having a beer and a bowl of chili at a Cardinal game a few years ago. But here's a quick look at the Horny Beaver roster. We've got at quarterback, we've got Matt Ryan, quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. Kirk Cousins, quarterback, Minnesota Vikings. And Baker Mayfield, quarterback, Cleveland Browns. Our running back core. Oh, I should mention here, the Beavers came in. They lost in the championship game last year. Congratulations to Gabe, who won last year. I think in his third season in the league. But the Beavers came in um, runner up in the championship game, so we picked ninth this year. So ninth is kind of a bad spot because you figure most of those top running backs are going to be gone, and probably a number of the top wideouts are going to be gone at that point. So you got to keep that in mind when I decide who I'm going to keep on my roster and who we're going to let go. But again, we'll get back into the roster here. So Ryan, Cousins, Mayfield, My running back core, I swapped it up a lot last year during the season. I let some of the older running backs go, like Gurley. And so the running back core consists of Dalvin Cook. So we've got some worries there about maybe a holdout with him. Devin Singletary, who showed out in the playoffs last year quite a bit, but he's got some competition up there in Buffalo. Boone and Madison of the Vikings, again, a homer team. But Boone and Madison are both on the squad. And then we've got Justice Hill and Daryl Henderson, young running backs last year that I thought were gonna be something that turned out not to be, and we've already got issues with both of them as far as injuries are concerned. The wide receiver core: A.J. Brown, Stephon Diggs, Debo Samuel, all showing up some kind of an issue. We'll take a look at that before we decide whether they're getting cut or not. Um, Diggs, of course, got traded to Buffalo. Metcalf, Mecole Hardman, Adam Thielen, and Demarcus Robinson round out our wide receiving core as we sit here in the preseason. Our tight end group: Mark Andrews, Irv Smith Jr., and David Njoku. Njoku obviously has been underperforming for a number of years now, but he's still on the Beaver roster. Our kickers: Dan Bailey and Stephen Wachuka, bless you, are the kickers. And then we get on the defensive side. Like I mentioned, this is a defense league as well. And so we've got our defensive linemen are Hunter, Bosa, Aaron Donald, Nick Bosa, and Ed Oliver. So I've got some great defensive linemen. Linebacking core: Darius Leonard, Devin White, Eric Kendricks, Matt Judon, and Anthony Barr. And our defensive back core is Harrison Smith, Marlon Humphrey, Micah Hyde, Jabril Peppers, and Trey Waynes. Wayne's already, I believe, hurt in Cleveland. So what I'll do is I'll kind of peek on Twitter too and see what the latest is on Twitter for each of these players. And our head coaches are Mike Zimmer and Sean McVay. So that rounds out the entire Horny Beaver roster as we go into cutdown day. Brandon Rogers checks in and says, "Yo, yo to you, sir. How you doing today?" So 3 viewers up in the chat. So, all right. So the first one we've got up on our roster here that we got to talk about is Matt Ryan. Is Matt Ryan rosterable here on the Horny Beavers with Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield in the mix? So I'm going to pull up Twitter real fast. And I'm going to just do a search for Matt Ryan and see if we've got any news out of Atlanta. So we got some folks debating who to keep and who not to keep. Some folks mentioned that their O line sucks. Some people talking about how his career has been impressive. A guy arguing that Ryan's still elite. So you're looking there on our scoring system, his average points per game was 19.2. 19.2 per game. So he was my highest scoring quarterback earlier. Brandon Rogers said pretty good trade for Unique earlier. I agree. You know, give up some picks. We had a lot of draft capital to work with, and so we gave some of that up. I've heard that Daniil Hunter has been hurt for like the last 10 days. He hasn't practiced, but their goal was to pair the two of them up and have two top shelf defensive ends. So we're excited to see if that works. Uh, Nick Metz checks in and says, rate the team 12 team point per reception. So it's a 12 team league. You got Watson, McCaffrey, Jacobs, Robinson, Woods, Andrews, and David Johnson. I don't know. You're kind of middle of the road there, I think. McCaffrey obviously won a lot of teams their leagues last year. Watson is a point producing machine. Jacobs, I don't know. So you're about one deep at running back. Mark Andrews, I love him for the Ravens. I've got him on my other squad. So I'd kind of, I guess if I was going to rate it, are we doing A through F? I'd probably give that team a B with potential to be higher. Potential to be higher. How about you, Chad? How would you rank Nick Metz's team there in a 12-team point per reception league? So my next quarterback obviously is Kirk Cousins of the Viking. He did 16.6 points per game last year, and like I said, he took me to the championship game. Nick Metz gives me a thumbs up. He likes my analyzing his team there. Any team that has McCaffrey has a chance. You just worry about him getting hurt. Brandon Rogers gives Nick a B plus for his squad. Alrighty, so Cousins, I'm going to keep him. I'm a homer, so we're going to keep Cousins in the squad. I've always tried to move on from Matt Ryan, and Baker Mayfield is the wild card here. Is he going to get better? What do you think, Chad? Is Baker Mayfield going to get better on the fantasy football side of things? He has everything on that team. He's got good running backs. He's got excellent wideouts, but he just does not put up points consistently. And we do know that there is that one new quarterback out there in the draft, but is Joe Burrow going to last to 9 for me in the Southern Arizona Dynasty Fantasy Football League? I don't think so, but I guess we'll know. What do you guys think? At what point in a 10-teamer do you think Burrow's going to go in a keeper league like this, um, where we keep 23 players on a 38-man roster? So anyway, that's the quarterbacks. That's the decision I have to make there at QB. Do I want to keep Ryan and Mayfield, or do I want to cut one of them too? And if I do cut one, who would I cut? So then we'll move on to our running backs. The big talk in the offseason here has been about Dalvin Cook, right? Is he going to be a holdout? He claims that he's not going to be. Will the Vikings extend him before the trade deadline? Karen Belforte checks up, says, "My man Butcher's in here. What's up? What's up with you, man? What's up with you?" So is Dalvin Cook going to be a problem for the Vikes? I don't think so. I think he'll play. And then the second question with Dalvin is always about durability. Is he going to be a running back that can be on my squad week in and week out throughout the fantasy football season? He was obviously the best running back by far that I have left on my roster, 13.4 points per game. And then the next one I've got is Devin Singletary. 6.4. He showed out, like I mentioned, in the playoffs. So we're trying to definitely keep him. I don't think he's going nowhere. Mike Boone, the third stringer for the Vikes, will probably get cut. He's one of the easy ones. If you have to cut 15, you got like 5 or 6 that you're certain that you're going to cut, and I think Boone is one of those for me. Alexander Madison is the handcuffed to Cook, so he's not going anywhere. And then we get into a couple difficult decisions. Justice Hill was supposed to be the guy for the Ravens. He was supposed to be the guy going into last year, or at least he had a good shot to take over that backfield. Let's put Justice Hill into the Twitter machine. Let's put him in there and see what kind of returns we get. So we've already got injuries to Justice Hill and Kenyon Barner. So the Ravens signed Tony Williams on Friday. And then you've got a guy named Tom on Facebook that says Ravens training camp report. And he lists Justice Hill and shows a graph with him going down. You got to remember the Ravens did bring in J.K. Dobbins as well. Another guy, Cellulose, 16 hours ago says, "Does Hill have any dynasty value, or is he droppable?" I think he might be droppable. So those are the questions surrounding Justice Hill. Here's one that I was crazy high on last year. crazy high on Darrell Henderson. If you remember his college tape, if you remember his college tape, he was averaging like 7 yards per carry in college, and then he gets to the pros, and he's sitting there behind Gurley, and the thought was that he was going to get huge carries. It never happened. It never happened. So I put Justice or Darrell Henderson into Twitter here to see what came back. So, Chad, I mean, what are your thoughts on Darrell Henderson with the Rams? Got to remember they drafted Cam Akers. They've got Malcolm Brown still in the fold, and then also Henderson still sitting there. So I don't know. He's one that I debate back and forth on all the time because, like I said, I just keep remembering his college tape. Mina Milton checks in and says, "Woo, the traditional check-in for him." And we're talking fantasy football today, Milton. AJ Duran says, "You're a Vikings fan. I'm a Cowboys fan." I know, make fun of me, he says. So AJ Duran's taking some heat for being a Cowboys fan. I've got a NFL Network on right now, and they're covering the Cowboys practice at their stadium tonight. So that's interesting. So there's kind of the questions I've got for the running back room there. I'd like to keep Henderson if I've got room from him, but again, I have to cut 15. Hill is probably gone. And like I said, Boone is probably gone as well. So now let's go to my wideouts. Let's go to my wideouts here. A.J. Brown, wide receiver for Tennessee. A lot of people talking about him being a breakout star this year. He already broke out late last year um, for the Titans, and most people are expecting he will do even more this year. But he's already got a red spot. TAA Spartan checks in, says, please grade 10-team league. He's got Russell Wilson, Alvin Kamara, Jones, I'm assuming the running back for the Packers, Devontae Adams, Juju Smith, Kelsey, Woods, Steelers D, and Lutz kicking for him. Well, Wilson is obviously, he's probably a fantasy stud for most teams. Kamara is the big question mark, man. Is he going to be the Kamara of old, or is it going to be the Kamara of last year? That's the big question. Jones broke out for the Packers last year. Adams, obviously one of the top wideouts in the league. Kelsey, a stud tight end. So in a 10-teamer here, man, you've got a lot to work with. I think you're good to go. I'd probably grade your team. A B plus. How about you, Chat? What would you grade TAA Spartans team in a 10-teamer without knowing anything more about the scoring system? AJ Duran checks in, says AJ Brown will do good. He has great potential. Could be a number 2 wide receiver in his opinion. I agree, AJ Duran. I think he's got one upside actually, but as of now, he's got a 2. Yeah, I think it all depends, on how their season goes. But when you got a running game like the Titans do, them wideouts get some space, and AJ Brown's got that length that we look for, and these prototypical receivers, kind of like Julio Jones, and I expect big things from him. I've got him in both my leagues, both teams in both my leagues. So, what did you guys think of TAA Spartans team there without knowing the scoring system? He's got a pretty deep team. The only one I don't get excited by is Juju. It's the only one that doesn't excite me. So let me check the old Twitter again here for some more info. All Alrighty, so let's check out my wide receiver core here, guys. A.J. Brown, as I mentioned before. Stephon Diggs, who has now moved on. He is now a Buffalo Bill. Deebo Samuel with San Francisco. DK Metcalf, another one of my favorites of these young wideouts. McCole Hardman, the speedster with Kansas City. Adam Thielen, Mr. Dependable from Minnesota. And Demarcus Robinson, who showed flashes last year but just could never seem to get it going. AJ Duran rates TAA Spartans team an 8 out of 10. He doesn't like Juju, and he was disappointed by last year's performance. TAA Spartan says, thanks for the grade. Have a nice. I subbed. Appreciate it, TAA. You have a great night, man. Appreciate it. Good luck this year with your squad. Good luck this year with your squad. All right, so that's the wideouts there, and just kind of an overall quick glance trying to decide who's going to make the cut, who's not. I'm worried about Deebo. I think Brown and Diggs are definite that they're going to stay on the squad. Metcalf's definitely staying. I would say probably Thielen is staying. So the ones that are in trouble here are Deebo Samuel, Mecole Hardman, and Demarcus Robinson. I'll have to probably think about them. Robinson's probably gone, I would have to say, without a doubt. Without a doubt, he's getting cut from the Horny Beavers squad this evening. And then we move on to tight end. One of you guys mentioned that you had Mark Andrews on your squad. I've got Matt Andrews as well. I traded for him late in the season last year. He was a big part of why I made it to the championship game. Averaged 11.6 points per game. And so he ain't going nowhere. Irv Smith Jr., tight end for the Vikes. Again, homer. I'm a homer. And Smith probably ain't leaving because they're expecting big things from him in Minnesota. So that leaves Njoku, who's probably in danger of being cut. A.J. Duran says, I think Diggs will be great. The Bills were good last year, so with Josh Allen's throwing, I say Diggs will be big this year. The only big question about Buffalo in my mind, dude, is if you look at Allen's accuracy numbers, his completion percentage, it's one of the lowest of the starting quarterbacks in the National Football League. And nobody gets more angry than Stephon Diggs when he doesn't get the ball. He didn't like Cousins, and Cousins throws at a 70% clip. Allen is way down in the 60s. So that'll be the determining factor as far as if Diggs and Allen make connections in Buffalo. It was a trade, I think, that the Vikings had to make because Diggs was being a diva on Twitter. Subliminal messages all the time in his tweets. And they finally got sick of it and said, you're out of here. Take a seat. Take a seat. So they moved him. All right, so we kind of thought on my tight ends there, I'm probably going to keep Andrews, keep Smith, and then Njoku's probably in danger of being cut. So then we'll move to the kickers. Kickers are a dime a dozen, I guess, in this league because, again, it's only a 10-teamer, and we can only keep 2. So as of now, I'm sitting there with Bailey on my roster and Wachuka. Or Hachuka, right? And they're both about the same points per game, 1 or 2 points, one way or the other. Either one of them serviceable kickers, but I'm not going to keep both of them, and I might not keep any of them. But so they're both in danger of being cut, and I could end up keeping one of them. Here's a problem area because I don't want to cut any of these guys. My defensive lineman, I've got Danielle Hunter for the Vikings. Was my best D lineman last year at 5.7 points per game. And then I've got both of the Bosa brothers, Joey and Nick. Then I've got Aaron Donald sitting there and Ed Oliver. A.J. Duran says, oh my, your defensive line is great. And you have Joey Bosa, Aaron Donald, and Nick Bosa. That's correct, man. And Danielle Hunter. So I'd like to keep all. My defense is kind of a deal where I don't really want to cut any of them because I'm stacked. But I got to get to 15. I got to get 15 guys off the roster before the draft starts next Friday night. So then we'll move to the linebacking core, right? This linebacking core, Darius Leonard, a monster, 7.6 points per game in the league. Then I got the young Devin White of the Bucks, who started to show out late last year after he finally got on the field. Then I got Eric Kendricks as a tackling machine for the Vikings, Matt Judon, who's a physical specimen for the Ravens, and Anthony Barr for the Vikings. This might be a spot where I have to cut a Viking. Now, Anthony Barr, all pro, all that good stuff, but he doesn't produce every week like some of these other guys do. He's sitting down there in that 4-5 range, 4.5 points a game. So I might lose a Viking there because I sure don't want to get rid of either Leonard or White. So I'd have to decide between Kendricks and Barr. Alrighty, so let's move on. Our defensive backs. Defensive backs don't score a ton in this league, but I've got Harry the Hitman Smith as my defensive back. Then I got Marlon Humphrey, Mika Hyde, Jabril Peppers, and Trey Waynes. I'll probably cut 3 or 4 out of this group just to get to the 15. So some of the cuts are going to come from there without a doubt. My head coaches are Mike Zimmer and Sean McVay. Points per game for the coaches is very minimal in this league. So it's just a matter of personal taste. You want to have the coach of your favorite team. So I don't know. And could you pick him back up in the draft if you should cut him? So they might both get cut as well. So just a quick count here. We're just trying to get to 15, ladies and gentlemen. We're trying to get to 15 cuts, right? So I'm going to cut. I don't know. Do I cut Ryan? You can't trade him, guys. I mean, I've tried to trade him for the draft, tried to get some draft capital for him, but it doesn't seem to happen. The quarterbacks are they're all about the same in the league. So just for fun, right? I mean, the whole goal is to have fun with your team. I might cut Ryan, so that would probably be one. I'm going to cut one, so one quarterback gone gets me to one cut. Boone gets me to 2. Justice Hill gets me to 3. Samuel, what's going on with him? Debo Samuel's got an issue with his foot from last year, it looks like. And the 49ers just signed Kevin White, the former first round pick for the Bears. So a lot of questions with Debo. Excuse me. AJ Duran's telling me to put the cut on Baker Mayfield. Says he's going to disappoint again. And he puts a vote of confidence in for Matt Ryan. I'm kind of back and forth, man, because really Cousins is going to start. So I usually start Cousins. But Samuel's in trouble. So what does that put us at? One of the quarterbacks, 2, 3, 4. So we're at 4 with Samuel. McCole Hardman. Let's just not him yet. Demarcus Robinson puts us at 5. And Joku puts us at 6. 7 with Chuka. 8 with Ed Oliver. 9 with Anthony Barr. 10, 11, 12. Yeah, so I think I can get to 15 pretty easy this year. AJ Duran says Debo Samuel's interesting because I think he will have less impact. He's going to get less less opportunity with the Saints. He's not with the Saints, is he? They're showing him here with Frisco, man. Let's go to Twitter. Let's go to Twitter. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's still with Frisco, man. Not sure what I'm missing there. Not sure what I'm missing there, but he's probably getting cut because he's got questions, and I don't have questions about Metcalf, and I don't have any questions about Thielen as well. And plus, it's a wide receiver heavy draft. I mean, the wide receivers are going to be getting picked in the third round, I think, in this league of these rookies. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Let me check real quick here. $266 on the subscriber count. 266 on that subscriber count, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's go back in here. AJ Durant says, "Never mind. I was thinking of Emmanuel Sanders." Okay, man. I do it all the time too. You never know. There's so many of these guys. So many of these guys. All right, so let's start putting pen to paper here. Pen to paper. Definite cuts, right? Definite cuts. I'm still debating on the QB, right? But I think I'm getting rid of one of them, so I'll put a QB there. And then we know on running back, I'm getting rid of Boone. I'm getting rid of Hill. And I'm just going to get rid of Henderson. And then hope I get one of the younger ones to drop to me. If not, I can maybe pick him back up in the draft because I'm probably the only one high on him still. Then we go to the wide receiver slot. Samuel's gone. Hardman's a tough one, man. Hardman is a tough one. So let's just do Robinson. Let's cut Robinson there and see where we're at. Durant says on his fantasy team he's keeping Zeke and Lamar Jackson. No doubt. Easy decisions right there, man. Easy decisions. All right, so Samuel and Robinson. That gets us 5 definites with a quarterback to add. And then we know at tight end, I'm kicking Njoku to the curb. And then I have to get rid of at least one of the kickers, right? So I'll let Hashuka go, right? Because he's got to play outside in the snow. Defensive lineman, I don't really want to get rid of any of them, but I'm going to get rid of probably Oliver, even though I think he could be the next Aaron Donald. Linebackers. Linebackers. Barr. I don't know. Kendricks or Judon. Let's divest the Vikings here. Get rid of Kendricks. And then DBs. Hyde, Peppers, Wayne. And then coach, right? So coach. What if we just cut McVay? So what does that put us at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I got. Hmm. That'll put me at 15 right there. I just have to decide on a quarterback. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So doing it that way right there, I would just have to decide on a quarterback, which leaves me a spot open should Mr. Burrow fall to 9. Because I really want Burrow, but I don't think I'll get him at 9. And I could keep one of the running backs or one of the linebackers if I cut the other coach. I think I've decided what we're going to do here. So again, the big question is Ryan or Mayfield. Literally a 7-point swing on the averages last year. And is there any way I could retain Henderson? All right, so this will be kind of the controversial cut. I'm cutting Ryan because I just want Baker there. I can maybe pick Ryan back up in the draft, but is there anything I can move around? Because I would really like to try to keep Henderson. All right, so we got Carter Sika checks in, says McLaren or Fournette at your flex spot. I guess that's all going to depend on how Haskins does, man. Fournette's one of those guys that's scary too. You don't know what's going on in his head. Let's Twitter him. Guys are still drafting Fournette in the fourth round. This guy here, 54 minutes ago, tweets he's avoiding Fournette this year because he thinks he could get traded and lose most of his value. The next guy says, do not under any circumstance draft Leonard Fournette before round 5. So I guess the answer to your question, Carter, is I would probably go with McLaren, but I would be looking at matchups whatever week it would be to see. You know what I mean? I mean, it all depends on what week it is and who they're playing, all that stuff. And the biggest thing with McLaren is going to be Haskins. Biggest thing with McLaren is going to be Haskins because I picked up that Golden, what the hell, Gandy Golden on the Redskins, and I think he could be the shocker out of this year's draft. I think he could be Randy Moss esque. Came out of a small school nobody ever heard of. But it's all going to depend on Haskins. Is Haskins the real deal in Washington, or was last year just growing pains of a rookie? AJ Duran says, but on my wide receiver, I don't know to cut. I have Amari Cooper, AJ Green, Julian Edelman. Who do I cut? Well, here's the question, AJ. Do you think that Cam Newton is going to feed Edelman like Brady did? Right? So that's one of the questions. And the other question is how much of Amari Cooper's production is going to get stolen by that rookie, CeeDee Lamb, who I think is going to be the rookie of the year? AJ Green seems like he wants to play, but he's got a rookie quarterback. So you got questions about all three of those guys. If it was me, I would cut Edelman. I would cut Edelman out of those three. Tough decision because I think they're all kind of in that same bucket. But Green was out all last year too, so he's scary as well. Any guy that takes a year off, whether it's for injury or what, especially wide receivers, because their careers end fast once they get hurt. Um, so the no doubt, I think it becomes a decision between Edelman. It becomes a decision between Edelman and Green, and I would probably cut Edelman. All right, so AJ says he's cutting Edelman. Hope it works out. I didn't tell you to do that. I didn't tell you to do that. So how can I cut somebody else and keep Henderson? Because I don't know. I just have a feeling that this guy is going to surprise. I've drafted him first round last year. So then is Hardman a better keep than Henderson? Judon sitting out there at linebacker. Packers Nation checks in and says, the what Beavers? The Horny Beavers, my man. Do you get it? I'm a Viking fan. They have horns on their helmet. Beavers, Horny Beavers. So my one team in this league is the Horny Beavers, and in the other league, I'm the Fighting Emojis. The Fighting Emojis. Packers Nation, do you play fantasy football, dude? Packers Nation says that made his night. Made his night. So I think we got our cuts, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just trying to push here and pull there to try to maybe keep Mr. Henderson there. But I don't think it's all that big of a deal because I don't know. The Rams, that whole Akers, drafting Akers is going to be a deal. Let's see what they're saying about Henderson, why he's got this red injury designation. So it says hamstring questionable for week one versus Dallas. So if this guy, the whole reason I drafted him last year was because he averaged 7 yards a carry in college and because he was a burner. And for 2 years now, all of last year and already this year, hamstring, hamstring, hamstring. So he's cut. He's cut. He is cut. AJ Durant says, haha, I went and looked at the thumbnail for the live stream, and one of the helmets said 69ers. Yeah, that's our San Francisco 49er fan. Packers Nation says, I used to never had anyone to do it with, so I stopped, but now I just heard about the good old Horny Beavers. Look on the thumbnail, you'll see the full helmet. It's tight. We're rocking that purple and gold like the Vikes. Just like the Vikes. So I decided on Henderson. Let me ask you this, Packers Nation. You used to play, right? So I'm going to cut one of these quarterbacks because I have to cut 15 dudes. 15 guys have to get the Vamushka from the Beavers. And I like, part of fantasy football is just having fun, right? The games you watch. So I tried to trade Matt Ryan last year before the draft, and I could not get a nickel for him. Couldn't get anything for him because quarterbacks, there's only 10 teams in the league, in our league, and there's 30 NFL teams, right? So everyone's argument was that it's easy to find a quarterback. I don't agree with that. I think you better have a guy scoring, 17 points a game or somewhere in that ballpark. But anyway, so there's no trade market for him. He's getting along in the tooth. But the decision here, I'm going to keep Cousins because I'm a homer. And so Ryan or Mayfield, who do you keep? Who do you keep between Ryan or Mayfield? That's the question, ladies and gentlemen. Who do I keep between Ryan and Mayfield? Packers Nation says Mayfield. He has no O line. That's what my brain tells me too. But I'm not on the hate Baker train. I think he's exciting to watch. So I think that's the only question in my mind still. That's the only question in my mind still. I would like to keep one of the Viking linebackers, but maybe that's what I do. All right, so we're 51 minutes into the stream. I'm about to wrap it up. Packers Nation says he is exciting to watch, but it all comes down to the front four or five. That's true. That's true. 15. Bobby asked me how I liked his rant. I thought it was funny, dude. I thought it was funny. Did you have any Toronto fans in your stream when you were doing it? All right, so here's my final decision, guys. Here's my final decision. So I'm gonna cut. First thing I'm gonna do is try to trade him, okay? Because I think I can get something for him before the draft here. But Mayfield will likely get cut, and I'll keep Ryan. I'm gonna shop Mayfield though, and I should probably be able to get um, a first or a second for him pretty easy. Boone. Boone is running. Let's see who the guy that I think would trade with me for him. Let me look at the team that I think would give me something for him. So if you're this guy here and you've got Wentz, Daniel Jones, and Brissett on your squad, and you tried to trade for Mayfield last year, you tried to trade for him last year. Packers Nation says, all honestly, though, I think Cousins isn't reliable because he always finds a way to mess up in the big games. Non biased, man. Yeah, non biased. You guys keep doubting on Cousins. Keep doubting on him. When he takes another division from you, you come back to me. Anyway, Cousins ain't going nowhere. He's not even part of this discussion. But I think I can trade this guy, Mayfield. But what can I get for him? You think I can get a one? You think I can get a one? Let's see where he's picking. He's picking at the 5 spot. So I'm going to try to move him for a 1 or a 2. All right, so let's go back to my squad. So here's how it's going down, ladies and gentlemen. Ryan or Mayfield will be cut from the team, likely unless I could deal one of them. AJ Duran says I say 5 to 8 spot that I could get for him. Well, we'll see. Because you might be right there because you figure at 5, the top 2 running backs are gone at least, 2 or 3, and then probably 2 of the wideouts are gone. And that's right in that sweet spot where Burrow's going to start getting talked about, I think. Okay, Packers Nation says, but again, think about this. What am I thinking about, Packers Nation? I'm telling you, man, I still like Baker. I believe in him. Yep, I agree. I see what you're saying there. Well, hopefully that team that I'm shopping him to thinks about that. I'd prefer to trade Ryan, but nobody gets excited about him. But I do have teams out there that'll give me capital for Baker. Now you say he'd go with Baker. That's why I said I'm gonna have to decide. It'll depend on what I can get for Mayfield. It'll all depend on what I can get. If I get move up into that 5 spot and keep my 9, I could end up coming out of the draft with a top 3 running back, rookie running back, and maybe even Burrow or a Tua as a developmental quarterback. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. It all depends on what I can get for him. I wish Richie showed up in the trade here. We could show you guys a trade discussion. Show you a trade discussion. See, Packers Nation, Roethlisberger, this I think is the end for him. I could be wrong, but I think he's done. I think Roethlisberger is the Cam Newton of last year. He's going to be the Cam Newton this year. And Lamar is in that spot where he got so famous so fast that he could regress a little bit too. But I think the Ravens are still the best team in that division. The Ravens are the best team in that division, but I think just like last year, we were all high on Cleveland last year. I'm high on them this year to where I think they're going to see some improvement. All right, so gone from the team. One of the quarterbacks is gone one way or the other. Then Boone, Hill, and Henderson at running back are all gone. Those are easy. Debo Samuel and Robinson gone from the wide receiver core. Njoku gets cut at tight end. Washuka, the kicker, because he plays outside compared to Bailey, who plays in a dome. Oliver hurts me to do that, but Oliver at defensive lineman, and I'll try to move around in the draft to pick him back up. Both my linebackers, Barr and Kendricks, both the Viking linebackers getting cut. And then Hyde, Peppers, and Wayne are the cornerbacks that are getting cut. And I'm sending McVay on his way as well at coach. And that gets me to 15 and keeps me out of trouble with the commish, who is me. The commish, who is me. So anybody else in the chat that has any fantasy football questions? Anything you'd like to gab about tonight on this whole hangout? The voice of fantasy football? We're up to 266 on the subscriber count. I've got the social media scrolling on the bottom there if you guys want to follow me on any of the other platforms. Valhalla Sports Talk on Instagram, Valhalla Sports Talk on Facebook. You want to email me, madviking@gmail.com, Valhalla Sports Talk on YouTube, and Valhalla Sports on Twitter. Give us a follow on all those social medias. If you find yourself in this video later watching it to see what this old guy was trying to do with his team, what he ended up doing, please subscribe, ring that bell. You'll be seeing all kinds of fantasy football content. We also cater to fans of the Dodgers, the Lakers, the LA Kings, and this is the flagship station of the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings. So if you hit that subscribe button, we'll appreciate it. We're making a real push at 300 here. Real push towards 300. I'd like to get there by the end of the week. But this was just a little short live stream. I want to thank my mods that checked in. I had Milton check in. Packers Nation came in to help us out, ask some questions. AJ Duran was fun to hang out with you, my man. Glad you came in and talked to us. And Bobby, as always, in my corner checking on me. So I'm going to cut this thing off, ladies and gentlemen. And you guys have a great Sunday evening and have a great week. And Valhalla Sports Talk is going to sign off from the voice of Fed.